a half step from B flat. So it's going from this B flat tritone to an A tritone in the left hand and then back. So it basically sounds like this. One more time. That's pretty common in jazz to have these types of sidestep notes. In this video, we're going to be talking about two-handed jazz piano comping. Hey, it's Paul Toby here from jazzmental.com. Thanks for joining me for another one of my tutorials. The primary purpose of a piano player when comping is you're supporting a musician who's either playing the melody or a solo. In the case of this particular video, we're going to be talking about a blues, a medium swing blues tune. It's probably the best place to start because the harmonic structure is not that complicated. So you need to know the harmonic structure of every tune that you play with the band, plus you also need to know how to play rhythms within that. So I've got a couple of exercises to go through. Let's take a look at the sheet music that's on your page. The first thing you'll notice is that there are no roots in these voicings. You can see that there is a bass line down here that's part of this sheet music. And because there's a bass line, we know we don't need to play bass notes with our comping. So the best way to approach it is to think about a B flat 7, which is the first chord, in terms of its chord tones and its extensions. So chord tones are typically 1, 3, 5, and 7, and extensions are 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths. So the goal would be to play probably just the chord tones in the left hand. In this case, we're just playing the tritone, or the 3rd and the 7th. And then in the right hand, we're playing the 5th of the chord, the 13th, and the 9th. And you can see by these examples, I've just played on the and of 2 and the and of 4. So of course, this is the and of 2, this is the and of 4, and of 2, and of 4. So this is the first exercise. It's a very simple exercise to do. And what I want you to do is just start thinking about the and of 2 and of 4 in terms of rhythm. We'll get a little bit more complicated a bit later on in the video, and I'll give you another example of what to play. But for now, play like 3 and 7 in the left hand, this in the right hand, and then when you switch to the E flat chord, it's this voicing, where you've got 3 and 7, and then in the right hand, you've got the 3rd, the 13th, and then the 7th. Now you can see that Chordy doesn't know really what that chord is because there's no bass note. But if I threw down a bass note, now you've got an E flat 9 chord. And for the first chord, throw down a bass note, got a B flat 9 13 chord. So again, chord tones in the left hand, extensions in the right. So if I scroll down here, you can see that it is a B flat blues 12 bars. And I've written out the 12 bars for you to learn these particular voicings for comping. Let's go ahead and play this. I recorded it on the piano. Let's play it and hear what it sounds like. As you can see, I'm just playing on the and of 2 and the and of 4. That's because I want you to get used to that rhythm. Because when we do more complex rhythms, you still have to keep that idea in mind, where those are the most accented beats of the bar, and of 2 and of 4. All right, let's move on from here and make it a little bit more difficult. What I've done is use kind of the same chord voicings. I've just mixed up the rhythms a little bit. So if you can take a look at what's on your screen, it's 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so what I want you to do is just play the rhythms that are here with the chord voicings that are specified. Again, we're just following the same types of chord voicings as in the first exercise. We're just embellishing a little bit with more rhythms. Now, of course, the rhythms would change when you play with an instrumentalist. What you want to do is support what they're playing. If they have a rhythmic idea going, use your chord voicings to embellish that rhythm, but also play in the spaces where the soloist isn't playing. So if he takes a couple of bars break, maybe you want to fill in a little bit with your chord voicings. So let's go ahead and listen to this second exercise played in its entirety. All right, let's point out a couple of interesting things about that. You'll notice that I do what's called sidestepping, and that's either going away from the chord by a half step or by a whole step. Okay, just before we go any further, I'd like to ask you to give this video a thumbs up, of course, if you like it. It really helps the channel when you do that. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, just hit the little bell when you do, and we'll notify you all the upcoming videos that we're making. Our first example of sidestepping would be this chord. It steps out a half step from B flat. So it's going from this B flat tritone to an A tritone in the left hand and then back. So it basically sounds like this. One more time. That's pretty common in jazz to have these types of sidestep notes. The next example we have is in this bar here, where we are going from the B flat chord, sidestepping by a half step and then back to B flat chord, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Again, that's a bebop phrase, eighth note to eighth note in swing format that ends on the end of the beat. That's bebop. So one more time. Then if you look to the end of that phrase, we're moving to an F7 chord, which is this. So you've got your tritone in the left hand, and then 9, 13, and root in the right hand. And we're approaching that by a half step below. We're not doing something like this. We're just approaching it without going to it first. So from the B flat chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You see that? So the idea is to come up with interesting rhythms and then sidestep the chords every now and then. And then on the last line, we've got this from the B flat to E flat, like that. And then we're going to B flat, so all I've done there is just change the left hand. Of course, we're talking about these chords right here, where the right hand remains the same, but the left hand changes. So from the F7 chord, and then a C minor 7 and F7 chord at the end. So again, the primary role of the piano player is to understand the harmonic structure first. That's the chord changes in the tune. Secondly, find interesting rhythms to play using those chord changes. And of course, we're doing some sidestepping to kind of help with the rhythm. Then next, the idea would be to listen and interact with other musicians. Now, of course, we can't do that in this particular setting, but when you do hit the bandstand, make sure that your ears are wide open and you're listening to the soloist and trying to embellish and help them through that solo by laying down some nice changes, but also helping them rhythmically. So once you get good at these exercises, and I will put a link shortly so you can go and download them and practice them along with the backing track that I'll give to you. But once you get good at that, then the next step would be creativity and improvisation. Of course, the more familiar you are with the tune, the easier it will be to comp and become more creative and more expressive with your comping. And then finally, a large portion of being able to be a great jazz piano comping machine is to learn a bunch of tunes and understand the chord structures within those tunes so that you can comp in any situation. Okay, let me put a link to the sheet music and the backing track. I'm gonna throw that up here in the corner. You can go check that out. It's free to download. And if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments below. And you might be looking for something else to learn in addition to these comping ideas. I might suggest you check out this video, which talks about how to tackle a lead sheet.